11:40 p.m., April 14th, 1912. A lookout named Frederick Fleet spots something dark on the horizon with no binoculars because the key to the binocular locker was in another man's pocket 3,000 miles away. He has 37 seconds to react. 1,500 people are about to die because of a key that never made it on board. The Titanic was the largest moving object ever built by human hands. 882 feet long, 46,000 tons, advertised as practically unsinkable. It had 16 watertight compartments. It had a wireless telegraph, the most advanced ship-to-shore communication system on Earth. And on its very first voyage, it hit an iceberg and sank in under 3 hours, killing roughly 1,500 people. Everyone blames the iceberg. The iceberg was just doing its job. So how did the most advanced ship on Earth ignore 6 separate chances to survive that night? Let's start with the ship itself. The Titanic was built by the White Star Line to compete with a rival company's faster, more luxurious liners. Bigger wasn't just a selling point, it was the entire strategy. The ship carried 16 watertight compartments that could flood individually without sinking the vessel. The press called it unsinkable. The White Star Line never officially claimed that. They didn't have to. Everyone else said it for them. Here's the problem nobody advertised. Those 16 compartments weren't sealed at the top. If enough of them flooded, water would simply spill over the walls into the next one, like ice cube trays filling one by one. The ship could survive 4 compartments flooding. It could not survive 5. The Titanic left Southampton on April 10, 1912, carrying roughly 2,200 passengers and crew. First-class passengers included some of the wealthiest people alive. Third-class passengers included immigrants chasing a new life in America. All of them were heading into the same stretch of the North Atlantic, an area known every April for one thing: ice. Now it's April 14th. Over the course of the day, 6 separate ice warnings reached the Titanic's wireless room. 6. The first comes in the morning from the steamship Caronia, reporting ice directly in the Titanic's path. It's delivered to the bridge. Captain Edward Smith reads it, notes it, keeps sailing at full speed. The second comes from the Baltic in the early afternoon, more specific this time, with exact coordinates of icebergs and field ice. It reaches the bridge too. Same response. Full speed continues. The third comes from the America. It never reaches the bridge at all. The wireless operators are too busy transmitting passenger telegrams, personal messages from first-class passengers who want to brag to friends back home about their trip. Paying customers come first. The warning sits in the wireless room. The fourth warning, from the Californian, reports a massive ice field dead ahead. It reaches the bridge. Captain Smith adjusts course slightly south. He does not slow down. At 7:30 p.m., the fifth warning arrives from the Californian again. Ice field. Exact position. This one also gets buried under passenger traffic in the wireless room. It never makes it to the bridge. Then, at 11 p.m., the Californian tries one more time. This is the sixth warning. Their wireless operator radios directly, urgently. "We are stopped, surrounded by ice." The Titanic's wireless operator, a man named Jack Phillips, is exhausted, backlogged, and irritated. He snaps back. "Keep out. Shut up. I am busy." He is working through a stack of personal telegrams for first-class passengers. The Californian's operator, insulted, shuts down his wireless set for the night and goes to bed. That was the last warning anyone tried to send. And the ship that sent it, the Californian, was less than 20 miles away. Meanwhile, up in the crow's nest, 2 lookouts are staring into the dark with nothing but their own eyes. Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee are supposed to have binoculars. There's a locker for them. There's a key for that locker. The key belongs to an officer named David Blair, who was reassigned off the Titanic at the last minute before departure. He forgot to hand off the key. He sailed away with it still in his pocket, and nobody thought to break the lock. So Fleet and Lee are searching a moonless, glassy, calm sea using nothing but their eyes, at night, for an iceberg that blends almost perfectly into black water with no waves to break against it and give away its position. At 11:40 p.m., Fleet sees something. A shape, darker than the darkness around it. Dead ahead, He rings the warning bell 3 times and picks up the phone to the bridge. Sixth Officer Moody answers. Fleet says the words that will define the rest of the night. Iceberg. Right ahead. First Officer Murdoch gives the order. Hard a starboard. Engines full astern. The ship begins to turn, but the Titanic weighs 46,000 tons and physics does not care about urgency. The turn takes time the ship does not have. 37 seconds after Fleet's warning, the iceberg scrapes along the starboard side of the hull, below the waterline, out of sight. There's no dramatic collision. Most passengers feel nothing more than a slight shudder. Some later say it felt like driving over gravel. Nobody realizes yet that the ship is dying. Down in the boiler rooms, the truth is obvious immediately. The iceberg has ruptured the hull across the first 5 watertight compartments. Not 4. 5. The exact number the ship could not survive. Thomas Andrews, the ship's chief architect, is called down to inspect the damage personally. He does the math in his head and delivers the verdict to Captain Smith directly. The ship has 1 hour, maybe 2, before it sinks. He built this ship. He knows exactly how it dies. At 12:05 a.m., the order comes to uncover the lifeboats. Here's the number. Nobody wants to say out loud, the Titanic carries 20 lifeboats, enough for roughly 1,178 people. The ship is carrying over 2,200. The lifeboats were never designed to save everyone. They were designed to meet outdated regulations written for much smaller ships. Regulations nobody had updated even as ships tripled in size. The crew begins loading lifeboats, but nobody has drilled for this. There's no established protocol, no clear chain of command on exactly how to fill and lower each boat. Officers on one side of the ship enforce women and children only. Officers on the other side let men board if there's space. There is no consistency, no plan, just panicked improvisation on a ship that was supposed to never need one. Lifeboat number 1 lowers into the water carrying 12 people. It has a capacity of 40. Passengers don't fully believe the ship is sinking. It doesn't look like it's sinking. The band is still playing. The lights are still on. Many first-class passengers initially refuse to board the lifeboats at all, choosing to stay on a ship that looks safer than a small wooden boat floating in the freezing North Atlantic. By 1 a.m., the crew starts firing distress rockets into the sky, white flares meant to signal any nearby ship. 20 miles away, the Californian's crew sees them. Their captain is informed. He does nothing. His wireless operator is asleep, the same wireless set that had been shut down hours earlier after the 6th warning was ignored. The ship that could have reached the Titanic in under 2 hours never moves. By 2 a.m., the front of the ship is fully underwater. The stern begins to rise out of the sea as the bow pulls it down. Passengers and crew who never got a lifeboat seat cling to railings as the deck tilts past 30 degrees, then 45. Some jump. Most simply hold on. At 2:17 a.m., the ship's lights flicker once and go out. Witnesses later describe a sound like nothing they'd ever heard. Boilers tearing loose, the ship's structure ripping itself apart as it splits roughly in half between the 3rd and 4th funnels. At 2:20 a.m., the Titanic disappears beneath the surface. Over 1,500 people are still in the water. The temperature is around 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Most of them do not drown. They freeze to death within minutes, their bodies preserved by life jackets that kept them floating face up long after they'd stopped moving. The lifeboats, many of them half empty, mostly do not go back for survivors. The people already in them are afraid the water is full of drowning swimmers who will capsize the boat trying to climb in. Only a handful of boats attempt rescue. By the time the rescue ship Carpathia arrives around 4 a.m., there is almost no one left alive in the water to save. Of the roughly 2,224 people on board, about 710 survive. Third-class passengers die at more than double the rate of first-class passengers. Men die at nearly 10 times the rate of women, a direct result of the women and children first policy enforced on most of the ship. The inquiry that follows, on both sides of the Atlantic, uncovers the 6 ignored warnings, the locked binocular cabinet, the insufficient lifeboats, the ship 20 miles away that never came. Regulations change almost immediately. Ships are now required to carry enough lifeboats for every person on board. A 24-hour radio watch becomes mandatory. An international ice patrol is established that still operates today. David Blair, the officer who sailed off with the binocular key still in his pocket, spends the rest of his life haunted by a locked cabinet he never meant to lock. Frederick Fleet, the lookout who spotted the iceberg with nothing but his own eyes, survives that night. He spends the next several decades believing that if he'd only had the binoculars, he might have seen the iceberg sooner, might have given the bridge enough time to turn, might have saved a ship and 1,500 lives with a few extra seconds. He carries that thought until 1965, when he takes his own life.